Today we're having a look at a product that's sole purpose was to upsell you from the standard Lenovo IdeaPad 5i. This is the Pro 5i, basically better, smarter, and more handsome in every way possible compared to its lesser twin. The configuration we have here includes Intel's 13th generation i5-13500H series processor, 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 memory, a pretty powerful RTX 3050 with 6 gigabytes of video RAM. We also have a fairly large 1 terabyte SSD, slightly dated Wi-Fi 6 standards, and of course Bluetooth 5 technology. And finally, this is a 16-inch laptop. Now there are enough visible differences between the Pro 5i and the standard 5i that it justifies its own dedicated review. So let's see what the Pro 5i is all about. Despite a spicier price tag, the amount of craps given about packaging here are pretty nominal by Lenovo, as you get a pretty generic looking cardboard box, but it's inside what counts, right? And after all, once you do remove all the packaging and get to the laptop itself, past all the additional packaging, here you have it, the Pro 5i in the flesh, and my goodness is it a gorgeous laptop, but more on that in a quick minute. You also have a fairly large 170 watt charging adapter, which makes sense given the kind of hardware we have here. And of course, it's worth noting you also get the standard wall outlet charging cable piece. In terms of design, there's an immediate distinction between the Pro 5i and the 5i, and that is the fact that you have a full metallic exterior here from top to bottom versus the half plastic, half metal exterior we have with the standard 5i. Now this gives it a far more premium and refined look, and while the color is still Arctic gray, you can definitely see it's a little bit darker over here, which kind of is an interesting tone to go with. Now it's worth noting, other than that, the laptop retains similar design qualities, so you've got a very reserved, conservative, business-like design that Lenovo traditionally sticks with, and there's no unnecessary grooves or textures. It's a very straightforward laptop with clean linear edges. Now it is worth noting the laptop does have an overall weight of approximately 4.3 pounds, making it more or less in line with most other 16-inch laptops. Starting with the top side, like I mentioned, no unnecessary textures. It's a clean, flat surface. Not much else to say. It is pretty fingerprint resistant, which is always nice. And then, of course, you have some subtle Lenovo badging on the corner. All the relevant ports are on either side of the laptop. So on one side, you have Lenovo's proprietary charging port. Then you have a modern HDMI 2.1 port. Next to that, you have a standard USB-C port. However, you do have DisplayPort and power delivery functionality. And then finally, you have a fully loaded USB-C Thunderbolt 4 port. Now on the other side, you have two more USB-A super speed ports, one of which supports reverse charging. You have the good old headphone jack, and pleasantly a full-sized SD card reader. All things considered, I think IO port diversity is pretty fair over here. The bottom side of this laptop, again, you have a nice clean metallic exterior finish that's firm and rigid. You'll also notice you have a very large 3-set air intake linear vent system here with a dual fan setup. Since it is a bottom air intake system, you dare not use this on your laps. Now it's also worth noting you do have two speaker grills, one on either corner, meaning this is a bottom firing speaker. Fret not, we'll do a full sound test later on in the video. Unfolding this laptop presents you with what I consider to be my favorite physical attribute of this laptop, a gorgeous inner chassis. That metallic surface with that Arctic gray color make a very nice casual business look that a lot of people like in a laptop. Better yet, you have a larger than life trackpad here that has a glass surface finish. You have more surf real estate here than, well, most New York City apartments. And not just that, you'll also notice the clicks are tactile, though it is worth noting because it's so large, you can occasionally mix your left and right clicks at the center zone. Lenovo keyboards are something that I always look forward to, and this here is no exception. So you have nice, well-labeled keycaps with a decent amount of surface area per keycap. You also have a full-size 10 keypad for maximum productivity, white LED backlighting, and it's also worth noting that the actual keystrokes are nice because you have a good amount of key travel, a slight degree of tactility, but ultimately a soft finish, which provides the perfect balance between a smooth typing experience and an enjoyable one. It is worth noting you don't have any sort of fingerprint scanner built in, which is a bit of a shame really. Directly above the keyboard, you have this pseudo-looking speaker grill. It's not a speaker grill, it's also not a cooling vent. It's just design, I guess. They've taken a note from HP Envy. It's weird. Now, what does concern me is the ungodly amount of screen wobble you have due to the single tier hinge mechanism here, which is honestly very loose to begin with, and this does raise some serious durability problems in the long term. I would strongly caution being gentle with the hinge to maximize laptop lifespan. Now, the display fitting on the contrary is very nice, so you have a nice thin chin at the bottom, and then you'll notice you have nice clean, sleek, and small narrow bezels on either side. Then at the top you have a fairly thin forehead, at the center of which you have a IR equipped full HD webcam, which honestly looks pretty decent across various lighting settings. Display quality is another fundamental difference between the 5i Pro and the standard 5i. So over here you have a 16-inch display with a 2560 by 1600 resolution, which equates to a glorious 16 by 10 aspect ratio. You have a refresh rate of 120 Hz, giving you a smooth finish, and also you have a wide viewing IPS panel here. Now it's worth noting that you have a overall brightness of 350 nits, which is decent, but not necessarily great. No touch captivity on board. Another thing that I really like about this laptop is the fact that you have a 100% sRGB color rating. While not the highest possible rating, it's more than ample for color sensitive activities like photo or video editing and provides a great viewing experience overall. You have a fairly beefy i5 H series 13th generation processor here. Additionally, you have 16GB of LPDDR5 memory and entry-level dedicated graphics with a RTX 3050 with 6GB of VRAM. This basically translates into pretty beefy performance, generally speaking, so day-to-day activities like web surfing, Word document processing are obviously going to be super easy for this machine. More demanding activities like programming, coding, or even 3D studio level animations are entirely possible thanks to the healthy amount of memory you have here. Now, the most demanding activities like multi-layer 10-bit 4K video editing on programs like DaVinci Resolve are entirely possible. I was able to stack multiple layers without any notable frame drops. It is worth noting, however, if you are going to be editing higher than 4K footage, you may notice performance drops, especially if you go higher than 6K, in which case doubling your memory would be highly advisable since it's not upgradable, but more on that in a minute. Now, in terms of gaming, ultimately this is not a gaming machine, but since you have a dedicated card here, you'll be happy to know games like Fortnite can run at max settings at the native resolution at 100 plus FPS, which provides for a pretty comfortable gaming experience. Thermals are fairly average, so under unrealistic peak loads, you can hit a maximum surface temperature of just around 43 degrees Celsius, but more realistic sustained loads will yield you around 39 degrees Celsius, which again isn't too bad. Now, fan noise can easily peak at just around 60 decibels, which definitely brings this at gaming laptop territory, though to be fair, you do have a dual fan setup, and the good news is the fans actually don't go on as often as you might think. In most cases, it's only when you push this laptop with high activities for a prolonged period of time do they spin at maximum RPM. Upgradability is a sad state of affairs because the RAM is soldered onto the motherboard. There are no upgradable memory slots, meaning you're stuck with the RAM that you get on day one, so make sure you make the right decision. Additionally, the good news is that you do have one PCIe Gen 4 to which the M.2 memory is already attached, but since it's upgradable, at least you have an option to upgrade your overall storage. With a 75 watt-hour battery, you can expect a maximum runtime with real-world usage of about 6 hours. In terms of the speaker quality, well, I've got bad news for you. Slapping Dolby Atmos onto a laptop used to mean something back in the day. Now it's pretty much a joke that means nothing, honestly, because you have bottom-firing speakers here, and the fact is that they just sound dry. You don't have any notable bass, they have a little bit of distortion at higher volume levels, and there's just nothing noteworthy about them. Now, of course, you probably want a quick sound test for reference, so here you go.
Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps I take from my bed to the floor. 5, 6, 7, 8. Will today be rough or will today be great? 9, 10, 11, 12. Lately I've been going through hell. 13.
With an approximate retail price of about $950, the IdeaPad Pro 5i 16-inch is a laptop that definitely brings upper mid-range vibes. So it has respectable build quality with that all metallic exterior. It's got a great display that's really nice to look at and has a lot of practical utility to it. I also appreciate the standard high quality keyboard and trackpad we get over here, and also other elements like beefy performance specification like an H series processor, entry-level RTX graphics, or even speedy memory make this a fairly lucrative offer for a lot of people looking for power in a relatively affordable price point. However, there are certain showstoppers. For example, the hinge quality definitely poses some long-term durability issues that might even be a deal breaker for some people. Non-upgradable memory at this price point and segment is frankly unacceptable on Lenovo's end. And of course, other minor things, for example, like the fact that you have lackluster speakers might also be an inconvenience to a great many people. Despite these, however, I think the Pro 5i does achieve its mission of presenting itself as a upper range, mid-range machine. However, it does raise a question of whether or not the lower end Lenovo IdeaPad 5i is even worth spending money on when you can spend a little bit more and just get the 5i Pro instead. And that raises a conspiracy of whether or not this laptop was designed in the first place to upsell you. Nonetheless, let me know what you think of the 5i Pro, whether or not you think it meets your needs, and if you have, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well. As always, if you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. It genuinely helps me grow. Catch you in the next one.